Game's over when you're fucking up by 5. Game over.
Game's over when Giannis Antetokounmpo can't score against such good defense.
We might have to bet right now. Welcome to Big Phacts. I'm your boy, Aaron. Justin's really excited about all these WOJ bombs and these SHEFTY reports coming in. So we got a lot to talk about today. Justin, how was your day, bud?
Oh, dude, long, bro. I got a 2-week-old baby here, and my wife can drive a car now, which is good. I don't have to go everywhere by myself, so that's nice. Day off from work, doctor's appointment at 8 o'clock for the kid. Yeah, I'm getting through one day at a time.
That shit.
Yeah, just putting along, man.
So it's going to be a good episode. We got a lot of NFL free agency moves, obviously. Let's get right into that, and we'll talk about the Sixers later as that game ends. They're up by 5 with about 9.5 minutes left over the Bucks, who were playing awful in the first half and are starting to pick it up just a little bit. Let's talk about the Patriots. Let's just start there because we had a full day where we literally couldn't talk about anything else. And low-key, the Texans have made a couple moves too, but without Deshaun, none of that really matters.
Unless they keep Deshaun.
Yeah, unless and sign probably the best defensive free agent, may have overpaid for him a little bit, in Matt Judon, outside linebacker from the Ravens. A couple minutes later, or actually before this, I'm sorry, they acquired Trent Brown from the Raiders, the all-pro tackle. Then shortly after, they get Jonnu Smith. They get Jalen Mills a couple minutes later. Nelson Aguilar signs a couple minutes later. The defensive tackle from the Miami Dolphins signs a couple minutes later. And then we wake up the next morning. We think they're done. They're not done. They signed Hunter Henry from the Chargers. Cam has agreed to a 1-year deal for $15 million. That's another conversation, but do you expect in the AFC East at this point, with Miami playing the way they did last year, the Bills playing the way they did, we'll throw out the Jets for a season and see what happens with their situation going on there. Do you expect them to compete in this division for a playoff spot this year?
I mean, if Cam Newton recaptures a little bit of his MVP form, I'm not going to say it's impossible. Buffalo is still clear and away the best team in the division. I mean, clear and away the best team. They just signed Emmanuel Sanders, we were just talking about before we came on. Josh Allen's probably going to take another step forward. They might be better than Miami now because Tua is not the answer, and I know that we don't need to go down that road with you yet, but they could draft a quarterback at 3 and start over. Who knows what Miami does? They're crazy down there.
Yeah.
I think the Patriots are immediately number 2 for sure, and they're a Josh Allen injury, a Stephon Diggs injury, something bad happened to Buffalo away from probably winning another division title. I mean, they got better on every single side of the ball at almost every position in the first 36 hours of free agency. It was fucking insane.
Yeah, and they've run – the thing with them last year was really hard for them to run an offense. First of all, Cam played really well the first 4 weeks. Pre-COVID, post-COVID was like 2 different seasons for him. You could tell he was – like getting hammered in the shoulder and couldn't throw the ball very well. But that's part of playing the position the way they use him. You're going to take hits. You're going to get banged up throughout the season. But they run a 2 tight end set. They didn't have tight ends to run that set with last year. And a couple people opted out on defense. They still had a pretty decent defense. This is why they were in most of the games they were in. By the way, bud, Milwaukee just went up 2, 78-76.
Oh, stop it. The game's over. Everybody calm down. Calm down.
So
unless Giannis starts to be able to shoot from outside 14 feet, it's okay, guys. Everybody
airball that 3 after I texted you. I was like, Giannis is terrible in the half court. He comes down the next possession, he airballs a 3. By the way, if you're commenting, comment on the Big Phacts page, not on our personal pages. We can't see it. So back into free agency. So, Miami, it's going to be interesting what they do. So far, they've signed the Lions' best, not best, but I think he's an average corner, Justin Coleman. They traded Shaq Lawson for McKinney from the Texans. He's their linebacker, and they signed an offensive tackle. They're trying to shore up a couple things. I don't know if those moves scream that they're going to do anything specific in the draft, but I'm not sure what you would make of that situation. I personally think they're probably going to go with a quarterback, but people seem to think that they're not. Your thoughts on Miami's pick at 3?
I think they trade down because I think there's 4 or 5 teams that want to trade up and get a quarterback. So I think that it's pretty easy for them to trade down. I think the only way they use that pick is if the New York Jets keep Sam Darnold and believe that they can go down to, let's say, 4 with Atlanta, and Atlanta can hop, skip, and a jump over whoever's going to trade with Miami and get Zach Wilson to follow up Matt Ryan. If that wild scenario doesn't happen, I think Miami's likely to trade. If you ask me to give you the best chance of what, I'd say there's an 80% chance they trade out of the spot. If they keep it, I mean, to me, dude, I'm sorry. If you don't take Jamar Chase, you're stupid. I mean, it's that easy to me. If you're going to move forward with Tua and you're not looking at a quarterback there, you've got to get – I mean, if you trade down, right, and let's say that you go from 3 to 7 or 3 to 8, you have a shot at getting Kyle Pitts at that spot. I know he's rocketing up boards, but we know how tight ends fall on draft day.
Yeah,
who knows how how that ball's gonna drop. But if you were Miami and you had the ability to potentially get Kyle Pitts and trade down a handful of spots, you do it. If you can't guarantee yourself that playmaker, you have to take Jamar Chase. So if I'm Miami, I'm breaking the hearts of every Eagles fan that's listening to this and will watch the draft. I'm taking Jamar Chase. I don't see how you can't. They need offensive line help. There's no doubt about it. But they need so much help in other places. Like, their defense is about all that's complete about that team. They don't have a true number 1 receiver. Their offensive line is good, but it's not incredible. They don't really have a number 1 running back, who obviously you're not drafting at 3.
Yeah.
They have so many holes, bro. You take the best playmaker on the board, and that's Jamar Chase.
So the Chiefs let go of their tackles. We were making this big deal about it because, they got basically bullied in the Super Bowl without those tackles. And then they go ahead and they sign the best offensive lineman in Joe Thuney, 5 years, $80 million. And then Kyle Long comes out of retirement to sign with the Chiefs, ring chasing. And he still had gas in the tank. I think he's tired. So whether it's depth, whether he starts, we'll see. They also re-signed Taco Charlton and released Damian Williams.
I think the Chiefs are the 3rd best team in the AFC. I don't think many of these moves matter.
Are you putting the Colts over them? The Bills and
the Colts.
I'm asking.
The Colts. You could have named 12 other teams that would have made sense over the Colts.
Well, I'm going to place a little prop bet on the Colts, bud.
Drake, the Colts. What? No, I mean, here's the thing, dude. Lamar Jackson's going to break through in Baltimore eventually, right? Like, at some point in time, they're going to win an AFC championship.
He took a step last year. He won another game.
All right. He's still terrible. But to me, there's a team like that. I don't know who the second team is. I mean, I really don't. The first team is Buffalo. I don't think there's any competition. If Buffalo takes 1/3 of the step forward that's in front of them, head and shoulders the best team in the AFC. But that second team, dude, is going to be a team like Baltimore. I think Baltimore is the likely scenario because Lamar does have to take a serious step forward soon. I mean, not only for Lamar's career, but for Harbaugh's career as a coach. Something's got to give at some point. They've got to make it to an AFC championship game and win one in the next 2 seasons, you'd think, before they start to change and adapt to what that personnel is. So, I mean, so the Chiefs are going to do things that shore them up. But again, dude, at the end of the day, any given Sunday is no better point than Patrick Mahomes. It's him, bro. If he's 100% on, you're probably going to lose the game. Like, if you're playing the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes is 100% there, you're probably losing that football game. If Patrick Mahomes is 99% there, you have a crack in the armor and you can make it. But the Chiefs are just that weird anomaly.
So, Cardinals, after adding J.J. Watt, they go out, they re-sign an offensive tackle that they like, 2-year deal. They agree to terms to trade for Rodney Hudson, the center from the Raiders. And then just about, I want to say 2-3 hours ago, they got A.J. Green on a 1-year deal to play with DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald if he comes back, Kyler Murray there, and maybe, it gives them an easy way to just draft an offensive lineman at this point in the draft unless they're trying to shore up a defense, which wasn't very good.
Where's Arizona picking?
Arizona's got to be bottom 10, right?
I think so.
We went to 20.
They weren't in the top 20, were they?
No, I don't think we went over them in the top 20. They got to be somewhere between 20 and 30. So
yeah, they weren't in. Oh no, they're 16.
Okay.
You're not going to get an O lineman that matters at 16. I don't think. I think that this entire draft, though, 1 through 7 for Arizona is just that. It's depth and young guys. They're going to need rotational guys. They're probably going to need a 4th or 5th round stretch the field wide receiver like a Quez Watkins. They need a couple of things, but again, dude, that team lives and dies by Kyler Murray's progress this year. I mean, if Kyler Murray does not look any more like Russell Wilson next year, they're in trouble, bro, because they've got a ton of money out there on a lot of guys where if Kyler Murray turns out to not be enough and you got to bring in serious help over DeAndre Hopkins, they're going to be in trouble in Arizona.
If A.J. Green stays healthy, is that the best wide receiver tandem in the league?
That's a great question because I think Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb are going to be a problem this year. You've got
you got DK and Lockett. I'm missing.
Lockett's not up there for me. See, that's what I'm thinking of. I feel like I'm missing one that I shouldn't. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders and Stephon Diggs.
Jefferson and Thielen. You got Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. Jefferson
and Thielen, I would say, would be the only one where I probably instantly say is better. And that's just because Justin Jefferson looks like Randy Moss and Adam Thielen might be the greatest slot receiver we've seen in the last 10 years. But yeah, no, I mean, they're right up there, dude. If AJ Green plays 16 games or 17 games, whatever the season winds up being, Arizona's going to have weapons, but can Kyler Murray stop using his feet and start using his arm? We know watching him in college that he has arm talent. He's not a dead arm. He's not Lamar Jackson, right? Like I talk so much shit on Lamar Jackson as a quarterback, and I feel bad because as an athlete, he's incredible, but he has no fucking arm talent at all. He's like Michael Vick in his first 3 years in Atlanta. There's no arm talent. It's a rocket. He can gear up and throw it 85 yards, and hopefully it's close enough for your guy to run under it. That's as good as a quarterback as he is. Kyler Murray has arm talent. We saw it in college, and we've seen it progress some in the NFL, but he's got to do better, man. Like, if Arizona wins less than 11 games this year, we have to be disappointed, right? Like, with that roster?
With him last year, it seemed like he was having a little bit of an issue with his quick decision-making. He almost looked like he was having the problems that Carson Wentz had sometimes, where he just overthinks what he should be doing instead of taking what the defense gives to him. That happens sometimes with young quarterbacks when they're trying to force a ball to their number one receiver. But it seems it's not like DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald have these massive egos where you have to feel like you're trying to force something, like Baker with Odell.
Right.
A situation like that. Kyler, it probably has a bigger ego than both of those guys.
For sure.
So I would think that, this is coming down to coaching with him, because everything I see is there for him to be able to play at an MVP level. And when he had to do everything by himself the year before, it's almost like he looked more comfortable, and he's like, I just got to find the open guy because I have no O-line, and I'm going to get crushed if I don't figure this out. And this year he's a little more comfortable. He's trying to find D-Hop. Where's Larry at? Eventually take what the defense gives you. We'll see if he takes that step. I don't trust the Cardinals till he does, because I thought adding a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who was directly responsible for about 2 wins of theirs last year, with the Hail Mary and some of the fourth quarter play.
Dude, DeAndre Hopkins is the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. I know Michael Thomas gets a lot of love. I know DK Metcalf is a freak. Yeah. DeAndre Hopkins is the best wide receiver. DeAndre Hopkins instantaneously makes your team better. Every team in this league, no matter who's on that roster. He is the best receiver.
So if he gives you 2 games, like, you should have gotten to the playoffs. Like, you just
and that's what I mean. I think 11 wins is anything but as disappointing. Speaking of 11 wins, we have to discuss your ginger soulmate and his new franchise, LTBB fan club head that you are. You mentioned to me that you were talking about potentially making a prop bet on, I don't know if you said the Colts or Carson Wentz. Tell me about it so then I can make fun of you.
So I was given an interesting stat.
Uh-oh, Spaghetti-O.
I know you love my stats. So I'm going to place a bet, just a little bet.
Shit. What did PFF tell you to do now?
No, but the PFF didn't tell me that. So did you know that when Carson Wentz is sacked less than 2 times a game, he's 16-3?
This is so stupid.
And the Colts O-line has only given up 16 sacks in the last 2 seasons. That's not the sole reason I'm placing it. I'm placing it because they have a phenomenal defense, a phenomenal running back, and all he has to do
right quick though, when T.Y. Hilton signs with another National Football League organization, who is Carson going to throw the ball to?
Well, he plays better with practice squad guys. We know that.
Who is Carson going to throw the ball to?
Pittman's over there. He's got a running back. I don't know, dude. They'll figure it out. They're gonna figure it out.
If the Indianapolis football Colts fail to address the problem of letting T.Y. Hilton go, and it's not because he's T.Y. Hilton, you can let T.Y. Hilton go, and you could have brought in. You could have brought in Corey Davis. You could have brought in the cat that Washington just brought in. You could have brought in Kenny Golladay. You could have upgraded or stayed the same.
They need help. Yeah.
So without addressing the glaring hole at who this shitty quarterback is going to be throwing to, you still have to identify the fact that they've got a shitty quarterback, Ron. And let me break down a statistic for you.
Do they, or is he just kind of
tell me this? Tell me this. Maybe you know of something that I can't remember. When is the last time a quarterback in a 4-year span went from an MVP contender to the worst quarterback in the league being traded out of town with a $130 million contract?
It doesn't happen.
Hold up. And succeeds in the place he gets traded to. Has it ever happened? Can you recall?
Well, has it ever happened where someone like that has gone back to the coach who made him an MVP and had an all-pro top 3 defense?
Bro,
I'm asking you a question back. The scenario's never happened?
Of course. First of all, the scenario that you're presenting is a false dichotomy because you're assuming the play of other people while ignoring what we knew for a fact in 2017. The Eagles' defense was top 5. Every single guy that walked on that field through those playoffs made plays every time they got the opportunity. What happened was every star in the fucking galaxy aligned in Kelly Green for the first time ever in 60 years. Yeah. That is not going to duplicate itself. But if it were to, you're trying to pitch me that because Frank Reich is now the head coach who has an offensive coordinator all his own that Carson has to work with, he's not going to work with Frank. He's going to work with the offense. You're trying to get me to assume that Carson Wentz is going to go from the 32nd ranked quarterback in the NFL to good enough to take the Colts to 11 wins again, like Phillip Rivers did. And it's just not possible.
What was the Eagles' strength on offense and defense when they won?
What do you mean? What was their strength? So defensively,
what was the biggest strengths on their football team? It wasn't the quarterback.
Defensively, it wasn't the quarterback in the Super Bowl game. It was the quarterback for 13 games to get home field advantage. That's again, you can't present half an argument to try to take down a whole argument.
I'm asking you.
The thing that won for the Philadelphia Eagles in 2017 was their pass rush. Zach Ertz caught everything that came near him. Alshon Jeffrey was an elite wide receiver. Their offensive line
had like 900 yards and like 6 touchdowns or 7 touchdowns that year.
I don't care what Pro Football Focus says.
It's not. It's a statistic. It's not Pro Football Focus.
If you watch those games, you saw Alshon Jeffrey be a true number 1 wide receiver. His catch radius was gigantic. He jumped off the field to get balls. Again, every single star in the universe aligned. So what the things that won were is the defensive pass rush and the offensive line play. Now, you're going to say to me that Indianapolis has a top 3 or a top 5 young defense. I'm not going to disagree with you. I don't think that you're wrong necessarily. We're not going to know until we get balls deep into the season how well they hold up. But what we do know is that there has only been 3, maybe 4 assemblies of offensive lines that were ever as good and efficient as the 2017 Eagles. That's just a fact. That is just true. So no matter how good that defense plays, the Colts offensive line will not come near the ability of what the Philadelphia
They're
Eagles
one of
had.
the top-ranked offensive lines in the NFL and have been for the last 2 seasons. Why wouldn't they get close to that?
Bro,
That doesn't make any sense.
Because the
They have the best offensive lineman in the NFL.
The Eagles' offensive line of 2017 wasn't just at the top of the league. Again, they were one of 3 or 4 in 70 years of professional football, ever. Not just that season, ever. That's not where the Colts were last year. That's not where the Colts have ever been to, because most teams can't assemble that level of talent with a franchise quarterback. The reason why the 2017 Eagles did, as you have pointed out countless times on this program especially, they had a quarterback on a rookie contract. They could afford to build that team. They now have a $35 million cap hit in Carson Wentz, and now they're going to start to have to pay these young defenders. So while they can't bolster up that offensive line to be as good as the Eagles was in 17, they're also going to start having a collapse of the defense because all these young guys are going to be ready to get paid. Look at what happened in Denver over the last 10 years, right? Denver sells out for Peyton Manning, creates a nice, young, strong, great defense. Can't find a quarterback, and now where are they? All of those great young defenders, bro, at one point in time, they had 3 starting corners on their roster. Now they're down to a 30-year-old B-plus corner because they can't afford anybody anymore. So the Colts have basically given themselves one chance, maybe 2, this and next year, before they really can't hold this team together. And there's nothing you're doing to convince me that anybody in this league is competing with Tom Brady or in the AFC side. There's no way that the Colts and Carson Wentz played good enough to beat Josh Allen, to beat Patrick Mahomes. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. The Eagles will get a first-round pick from the Colts for that trade. It will vest into a first, and it'll be 16 or higher. It will not be they will not be a playoff team. I'm saying it, hot take right now, sizzly on your fingertips. No more than 8 wins.
8? Come on, dude.
8.
Get the fuck out of here.
I just gave you a gamut of evidence to back myself up. You can laugh, but if you have no story back, that's okay.
All right, let's move on. So Washington, after signing a couple.
I gotta stop you. I'm sorry, I gotta stop you. If the Dolphins go, this is true. If the Dolphins go 12-4 or 13-4, if that happens, I will do an entire show in my underpants. I'm telling you now. Bookmark the time. It'll never happen. Never happen. They're going to be in the top 8, top 10 again in the draft next year because their quarterback blows. I'm sorry, Abraham. Now you can come over.
All right. So Washington, we think they might make a big move. Maybe they just make the right move this year because they're just not quite ready to win play. I don't think Washington's ready to win multiple playoff games. They might be ready to win one. And if there's a guy that could probably do it, I would say it's Fitzpatrick over Heineke. Given the success they had with an immobile quarterback last year and Alex Smith going 6-10, given the fact that the NFC East is extremely weak, given the fact that they have probably a top 5 defense in the NFL in Washington right now and a great defensive line, they sign Ryan Fitzpatrick, who torches the Eagles every time he plays them.
He does. Yes, he does.
And we're sitting here twiddling our thumbs, trying to figure out how to get under the cap so we can make maybe a move. And we don't even know who the fuck we're going to pick because we have so many holes. The division has been reshaped, I think, with that signing. Even though it's not a big signing, it puts them, in my opinion, as the favorite in the division. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Washington?
Yes.
No.
You think Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, listen, now, hold on. Historically, Dallas is, all pro on paper and the most underachieving franchise in most major sports. So I'm not going to say that they're going to achieve what they should. But how do you look at those 2 rosters and not tell me that Sixers just get – I haven't looked. Are you looking at the score? You can't look at the Cowboys roster and the Washington Redskins football team roster and tell me that they're anywhere close. I mean, Dallas is just – head and shoulders better at every position. Now, again, does Dak stay healthy? That's a concern. Do they figure out coaching down there? That's a concern. Do they actually achieve? That's the concern. But if you're asking me today, based on what we know, which is, again, on paper and in the roster, the Cowboys should easily win this division.
So you think, because I'm trying to figure, I disagree. Washington's defense, the Washington defense is going to be healthy. Would you agree they're probably going to be a top 5 or top 6 defense?
If healthy, yeah. I mean, if you don't have a Chase go down or something crazy happen, then yeah, for sure. I think they're top 5, top 7 at the worst.
Chase in his second year, you get training camp this year. So I'm supposed to believe that the Dallas Cowboys, with a quarterback coming off a broken leg that is terrible, ankle is terrible defensively, just terrible defensively, and consistently chokes games away. And we've seen over the years, they're so far behind in games sometimes that Dak is literally throwing for 500 yards just to catch up. So I'm supposed to believe, and they have the worst coach in the division. Maybe outside the Eagles coach, we don't know what we're getting with him yet. But right now, he's the worst coach in the division. And I'm supposed to believe that Washington it shouldn't be the favorite in this division.
All right, so let's just go over the parts that matter. Quarterback, Dak is the best in the division, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Dallas is the best quarterback. Running back is a little bit harder because Miles Sanders is very good, but if we don't have a cohesive offense, he's meaningless. The kid that Washington got last year, pretty good, right? But not as good as Zeke. So Zeke's a little bit better, but yeah, Saquon is the best, right? So this is 2 positions of merit Washington doesn't have the best in. Washington only has the best, and again, this is on paper, only has the best pass rush in this division. They're not better than any other team anywhere else except for the pass rush. Now, again, games are won and lost in the trenches. We all agree with that. But Dallas has the potential to be too good. Now, again, history showing bet the house on Dallas probably misses the playoffs because they're just the most underachieving franchise in professional.
That's another factor, right? That's another factor, right? It's like every year they seem to do that. I would agree that Dallas has the most talented roster, but just when we talk about Dallas every year at the beginning, the gap between their talent and everybody's talent is usually major. And because of how bad the defense has been, I just don't think the gap is as big this year as it has been. The offensive line's not nearly as good. Guys have gotten injured. Zeke hasn't played up to his contract. He's severely overpaid. Amari Cooper's making a ton of money. They have CeeDee Lamb. They have Michael Gallup. Of course, their passing game's going to be good. But I just see too many holes on the defense, too many holes on the offensive line, and the talent gap's just not as big with them and the second team in the division as it's been every year. So the Dallas fans get on this thing and they acquire all this talent and they pay all these guys and it looks fancy, but there is no major gap. I'm not looking at Dallas's roster this year and like shaking. And that's typically what
shake because but here's the problem, right? It's not because of the player, it's because it's Dallas, right? Like you can look at these like if Amari Cooper got traded to the Washington football team tomorrow, that makes Washington a frightening team, right? Like that is a player with talent. Part of it is because they play for Dallas. At some point in time, Dallas is going to get their shit together, and they're all going to show up at the same time, and it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, we'll see what happens and how cohesive they are. Dak should be there, I believe, for training camp. Sixers are down 3 with 3 seconds left. Just called their last time out. Gave the game away, bud.
I'm watching that.
That's okay. Listen, if you're a Sixers fan, just real quick, we'll go back into free agency after this because I want to talk about the Bears too. If you're a Sixers fan and you've watched these last couple games and we've gotten an ugly win versus the New York Knicks and Tobias Harris is playing to the max contract level and you're playing a team that's been winning a lot of games in the Milwaukee Bucks to the point where Giannis is once again being talked as an MVP candidate and you go in there without Joel Embiid and you're up 17, 14, 10 for the most part of the game, Joel Embiid's your closer. You're not going to feel too bad about this loss. So we'll get into this after.
They tied the game.
Who made the shot?
Furkan Korkmaz.
Furk.
Furkan Korkmaz.
Furk?
Herky Furky from Turkey. Wow. Who'd have thought Furkan comes up with a game-time shot in the 11th hour against the Bucks?
He's done some of that this year, hasn't he? I can't wait to watch that live. I'm kind of pissed off that we're doing this podcast right now.
No, I like it. Listen, let's jump right back because we do need to get on to talking about the Sixers who are going to win this game in overtime.
Yeah.
So because Patrick, hold on. Last Sixers point for a second, and then we're going to come back. Because the Milwaukee Bucks, and I am convinced after the first half of this game, are the most overrated great team in the NBA, and I'm counting the Jazz. They play such terrible defense. Drew Holiday is like one of the top 3 defensive wings in the game.
Yeah.
Giannis is like 8'16" with a fucking 13-foot wingspan, and they can't play defense. I don't understand it. Anyway, back to free agency real quick. So we want to talk about the Chicago Bears. I have to ask this question to open up. I said it to you before we went on, but I just got to say it again live. How must it feel when you are hot on the trail of Carson Wentz and then Deshaun Watson and then Russell Wilson, and your consolation prize is the Red Rocket Andy Dalton? That sucks for the Chicago Bears.
So this is going to be interesting because we talked about the fact that we thought when Andy Dalton went to Dallas that he overachieved in Cincinnati, right? Because
is Cat from Miami? Is that what this is? Okay, I get it. All right. I'm going to ignore the rest of his comments. Go ahead.
So we talked about how Andy Dalton we thought overachieved given the lack of O-line and just how bad the franchise is in Cincinnati. But realistically, the Bengals and the Cowboys kind of had the same thing given to them, which was okay O-line, great wide receivers, really good running back. So now he goes to the Bears, who have nothing but Allen Robinson. They have no number 1 number back. I would argue they're both borderline 2 backs on that roster. They don't really have a good number 2 wide receiver. All those guys drop the football, and they have a not probably below average to average offensive line. I mean, if I'm a Bears fan, I am, and I have Nick Foles on the roster still, right? I'm like, what are we doing? There's GMs that can wheel and deal in this league, and there's GMs that can't. And as a free agent, how many people actually want to come to Chicago aside from Russell Wilson when you can go to somewhere that's warm weather, you can go somewhere that has weapons, you can go somewhere that you can win, you can play for the coach you want. Chicago's just not very why would you want to go there right now? Why would you want to go to Chicago?
Hey, bro, I got a question for you. So if you are the New England Patriots, we got to take them out. They re-signed Cam. If you're the San Francisco 49ers, the Denver Broncos, or the Carolina Panthers, 3 teams who we know are not really happy with the quarterback situation.
Denver Panthers.
Correct.
Okay.
And you could give up, let's just say something significant. Name it for the team, but you have to give up significant capital to move up in the draft and hopefully end up with a guy like Trey Lance. Because I think Fields is going to catch fire. I think the first 3 picks in this draft are going to be quarterbacks. I don't necessarily think it's the teams that hold the picks, but I think they're going to be quarterbacks. Would you rather give up significant capital to move up and get Trey Lance? Or would you rather take a 1-year flyer on Mitchell Trubisky?
It depends what team you are. Trubisky is not going to win a job over Garoppolo, we'd agree. He's not as good.
I think, but for any of these teams, like the Panthers even, I don't know that he beats Teddy Bridgewater. That would mean that these teams find a way out of their current quarterback, and they need a quarterback.
Yeah, it depends on the team and their situation. San Fran is not going to give up anything significant because they know they can win and win playoff games with Garoppolo. It's been proven as long as he's healthy, so you're not going to give away capital. If you're Denver, you've been searching for the right guy since Manning left, and no one's been able to take that. So it would be hard to imagine that they're going to give up capital. They have such bad luck that they're just hoping at some point there's some huge free agent that wants to come to Denver and play. The Panthers are interesting because I think given the coach that they have in Matt Rule, given the offensive system that they run, given the fact that they put up good offensive numbers last year, I think they're one of those teams that feels they're a couple years away. And in that case, you can move up and build a quarterback up and try to fit him into the offense that Matt Rule's running coming from a college program. So if anybody's going to do it, if I'm the Panthers, I'm going up and I'm getting the guy that I want to get. I just don't think the other two teams right now are in a position to do that. Denver's not good enough to give up capital. They're just not. They're not a great football team.
So, but let me ask you this question. You mentioned the Carolina Panthers think that they're a couple of years away. If the Carolina Panthers can hold on to the construction of that roster in its entirety and just find a way to give up draft capital and Teddy Bridgewater and get Deshaun Watson, are they not immediately a player?
Yeah, they are, but they still had a bad defense last year. But
well, they had a middle of the pack defense. They weren't bad. They just weren't great.
They were disappointing for how they drafted and who they brought in. That's what I'll say. If you're the Panthers, obviously you do that. But the biggest thing the Panthers have going for them, and the biggest and the worst thing is if there's a team that feels like they need an absolute stud playmaker, they have Christian McCaffrey, and they've been shopping them. Because they know they can win with Mike Davis. Christian McCaffrey went out. They were still winning football games and running the ball well. The problem is the same problem that the Cowboys have is that running backs aren't very valuable, and you paid them too much. You just paid them.
I don't know. I don't know that I agree about that with Christian McCaffrey. I think Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara are unique in what they provide. They're not just running backs. Saquon Barkley is Ezekiel Elliott. They're running back.
It's the value you bring to the football team. So I understand what he does for the offense and for the quarterback, but does it translate to wins if you're trying to?
Yeah, for sure. If you have a good enough team.
I don't think it does.
Well, we're talking about a tight end being drafted in the top 3 potentially. Like the football is changing right now. Alvin Kamara was the guy that really burst out onto the scene of that different kind of running back.
But listen to this. Listen, if you look at we talk about Super Bowl formulas all the time, right? So the last 2 Super Bowl champions, who are their running backs?
But hold on a second. You're talking about Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes,
right?
So if you have a quarterback that's the level under Tom Brady, and you can afford because he's on a rookie contract to bring Christian McCaffrey in, that offsets that talent disparity almost exactly. So you have to absolutely have the right situation. You need Joe Burrow as an example, right? If you've got a quarterback that could be elite right now, Justin Herbert, a rookie contract quarterback that's probably going to be a top 10 quarterback this year, and you add an elite playmaker like Christian McCaffrey and get a healthy season. His health is imperative. That level of ability in your offense and maneuverability, Christian McCaffrey plays 3 different positions. That is what that provides to your team. So Saquon Barkley is your example of Ezekiel Elliott. They are running backs. They can catch the ball a little bit, but they're not the same guy. Christian McCaffrey does have value, not Deshaun Watson 3 first-round draft pick value, but you could probably get a 2 for him right now with 1 phone call. And if you leveraged enough, you probably get into the back end of the first round.
So the other reason I bring up because
Tua sucks.
You compared it to drafting a guy like Kyle Pitts, but the other point I would make was like, well, the top quarterbacks in the league, the ones that have been winning Super Bowls, they have all-time tight ends, and that's just Kelsey's been there, Gronk's been there. Those are the guys winning Super Bowls every year.
We can't call Rob Gronkowski an all-time tight end right now, can we? He had like 11 catches.
No, not last year, but throughout his career, like he was, bro.
Yeah, but like, look, if Jason Kelsey goes to a winner and has a couple of good catches through the playoffs, and by a couple, I mean literally 2 or 3, like Gronk did, just a couple. We don't all of a sudden say that he's Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Darren Waller.
Gronk over the last decade has probably been him and Travis Kelce have probably been the best tight ends in football. Kittle? No, because George Kittle only had 1 outstanding year so far. He's looked phenomenal. He's had an outstanding year and a half. He's a top 3 right now. I'm talking about over the span of the last 6 or 7 Super Bowls. It's been Gronk. Gronk's been there with Brady every year.
Yeah, I guess, man.
So when you talk about a guy like Kyle Pitts, and my point I was bringing up is like teams are looking at that. They're looking at the formulas for Super Bowls, like, oh, is the best quarterbacks in the league kind of all have like great tight ends that they check down to often. So, we'll kind of see what happens with Kyle Pitts.
But if you don't have the great tight end, Christian McCaffrey's a pretty fucking good check down option. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, while I'll agree with you, Kyle Pitts and Darren Waller add more to my offense 9 out of 10 times. If I had to settle for Christian McCaffrey, my stomach wouldn't be upset about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. Let's maneuver real quick. Well, we'll talk about the Eagles for 5 minutes, and then we will.
Why?
Because we have to. We have
or
to.
why they've literally done nothing. We could literally say nothing. We could say nothing, and that's exactly what they've done for us. There's been nothing.
Rumors today that the Eagles might be
I got to ask you the question now. I didn't think you were going to start with Deshaun Watson.
A landing spot.
If you had to give 4 first-round draft picks, 2 seconds, and a third for Deshaun Watson, right now, is Aaron Barrison saying yes?
4 seconds.
4 ones. So 4 consecutive ones. This 2, next 2, and a 4 next year.
If the Texans are willing to eat some of the cap money over a certain period of time, yes.
No, you're out your fucking mind, bro.
Why? What if our first round pick? What if our first round picks turned into starters?
That's not the point. That's not the point, right? You can't use Howie Roseman as an excuse for selling out the next 4 years. Because let's be real, unless it amounts in another Super Bowl in the next 2, Howie Roseman's not going to have a job. So you're going to let Howie Roseman mortgage the first couple of years of a new regime because you want Deshaun Watson now? That's absolutely silly. Now, if we're 6 weeks into the season right before the trade deadline, Deshaun's held out, nobody's making the phone call, and Jalen Hurts looks like, I don't know, what's the kid, Jacoby Brissett, right? He'll play for you. He'll show up. He'll make a couple of throws, but he's probably not going to win you more than 6. Then, yeah, you can convince me that we need to do a lot more. But it means that I didn't spend my 6th pick this year, and I hopefully have Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, somebody that I'm seeing progress. Because if you add Deshaun Watson onto this roster, what are you winning, 5 or 6 next year instead of 3 or 4? Like,
first of all, if you have Deshaun Watson, you have the best quarterback in the division. That's
absolutely. I agree with you 100%. You also have the worst team still.
you might. The Giants roster is bad, and they got a lot out of that roster last year. So a lot of it's going to come down to the coach, and I think they have to see what they have with the coach before they start pulling triggers on all this shit. And the coaches seem to like Jalen Hurts. So let's move on from the Eagles because that's a rumor that came out and it got hot for a couple hours, but I don't think there's any real leverage there for anyone. Sixers basketball. We were talking earlier. And I'm very, like I said, over the last week, just watching the way this team's played, watching the way they've been coached without Joel Embiid. The Bucks are going to win this game, by the way. They're up 7. But it's someone had just mentioned, I think it's 4 games in 6 nights. They've played some tough teams. They beat the Knicks the other night, who are a good team this year, well coached by Tom Thibodeau. It was ugly. Tobias Harris has shown that he's worth the contract he's been paid. And the depth of the team and the Danny Greens and the Seth Currys and the Dwight Howards have all stepped up. You have to be happy with what you've seen. Now, the weakest links that we've talked about and the rumor that we've been hearing, the weakest links for the most part typically are 2 guys that are in the starting lineup that really only should be depth players, right? Like that's what the weakest link of the team is.
Oh, for sure.
So Houston's a seller at the trade deadline. They just released or traded away PJ Tucker to the Milwaukee Bucks, which adds something nice for them. It adds a little depth. He's probably going to end up starting, but he's a great guy in the corner, and he's great defensively, so good for them. Victor Oladipo is not going to re-sign in Houston. Nope. So they gotta want to get everything that they can get for him, and the Sixers seem like the front runner. What does Victor Oladipo do for the 76ers team if landed, and what do you get? What do they get back for him?
So I don't know what So there's going to be a market for Oladipo, right? You can count out a couple of teams. You can count out the Nets because they're too guard heavy. You can count out the Celtics because they're too guard and forward heavy.
Yeah.
I think that LA is a player, but then I look at what do they have to give, and really it's Kyle Kuzma.
They don't have enough.
Right, and if I'm first of all, I think Kyle Kuzma only has 2 years left on his deal. Houston can't be attracted to that, and Kyle Kuzma doesn't want to go to fucking Houston anyway. The Suns are a little intriguing to me because I think that they're going to try to do something to make a push, but again, guard heavy. You're
Devin
asking
Booker's there too, yeah.
You're asking Oladipo or Booker to play the 3, and then I think that's a lot with Chris Paul on the floor. So I really think it's a 2-horse race. I think it's Miami and I think it's Philadelphia. I think they're the 2 teams that need him the most. I think Jimmy Butler is a more natural 3 than he is a 2. And I think you can slide Oladipo right into that starting lineup.
They have pieces there. They got shooters that Houston's going to want.
Well, so here's the thing, right? So I think the 2 names that jump off in Miami right away that are not the untouchables, right? You're not getting Bam. You're not going to get Goran Dragic, most likely. You're not going to get Jimmy Butler. But I think Tyler Herro and Duncan Robinson are likely guys to be included in some package.
Yeah.
So I look at what could the Heat offer, and I think that would be the center of the package. Who knows what other Iguodala's contract, whatever it is. There's going to be other contracts just to make money work, right? But it'll probably include, and I know this makes people go nuts for some reason in the NBA. If you're picking past 25 in the first round, you don't need a first-round pick in the National Basketball Association. You don't need it. It's a useless pick. I think it'll be 2 or 3 first-round picks, regardless of your package. So who has the more appealing package? Now, I have 2 scenarios. If I'm going to get Oladipo for this year and need to wait out to see if he's going to re-sign with me, I'm probably giving 3 first-round draft picks. I'm definitely going to give Seth Curry and Danny Green would be my core package. And if they wanted a Furkan or something like that I could replace, like Bellinelli was a few years ago, I'll throw in 1 more guy off the bench. Isaiah Joe, if they like the upside, whatever. If I know that I'm going to get a 5-year deal out of Victor Oladipo, I'm going to give 3 first-round draft picks, Tyrese Maxey, Furkan Korkmaz, and Seth Curry. And I might even give more if they asked for it and could fit it. What Victor Oladipo would provide to this lineup is everything they don't have, right? They have 1 ISO scorer that's not their big man in the post, and that's Tobias Harris. He's done great this year, as we've defended in the last couple of weeks, because he is earning his money. Tobias Harris is a 6'8" forward. Whether you count him as a 3 or a 4, he is a forward. He's not great on-ball ISO situations on guard switches like Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday gives him trouble. Victor Oladipo is an isolation guard that can score from inside or outside the 3-point line. He can catch and shoot, which is, anybody who can catch and shoot at this point. Wayne Ellington, we talked about earlier when I called you. Wayne Ellington for a second-round draft pick should happen right now. If that's all Wayne Ellington costs, go get Wayne Ellington. He's an immediate upgrade over Danny Green. Immediately. Yeah. To me, Victor Oladipo is the guy that creates what the big 3 should be. Because while Toby's averaging 20 right now, that's not usually his thing. He's an 18.5 guy. Victor Oladipo is a guard right now today with Ben Simmons as his point guard, probably could average 25 points a game, and he is a well above plus defender. He's a guy when you match up with the Brooklyn Nets in the Eastern Conference Championship, you're going to have 3 guys, maybe 4 if Matisse can get on the floor, where you can switch on and off James Harden and Kyrie Irving and not lose a step defensively. So it really is the cherry on top of the sundae of the roster that Daryl Morey's built. It really is the end that he's after, in my opinion.
Yeah, so Oladipo, and I'm going to completely agree with you. You can do a bunch with them. First of all, it takes even more pressure off of Ben Simmons to have to score so he can really pick and choose his spots, because I know Ben Simmons at this point, because of the way the roster is constructed, does feel the need to score more often. It takes the pressure, allows them to play better defense. Victor Oladipo is very good on defense. And we talked about this too, and this is a point I wanted to bring up. If you have that level of score that you're adding to the roster, because you're right now starting Danny Green and Seth Curry. All they can do is catch and shoot. They have nothing else in their offensive bag for the most part. So if you get a 20-point per game guy in Victor Oladipo, you can now insert Matisse Thybulle into your starting lineup. And you have 5 very good defenders, and you don't have to worry about Matisse Thybulle scoring. And now you're going into a series with that starting lineup against Brooklyn. And right now, Brooklyn has the best starting lineup in the NBA, but you are going to have the best starting lineup in the NBA if you get Oladipo, and your bench is going to be good enough to fill in those minutes with whatever it is you do. That's Daryl Morey's job to figure out.
For sure.
I like what would happen if we were able to land him, specifically because I would like to see Matisse in the starting lineup, but you can't do it right now because you go on too many offensive droughts and you need other guys to score. It's not going to matter if he's in the starting lineup if you have Oladipo there.
Yeah, I mean, and again, when Danny Green is averaging 4.5 points a game or whatever the fuck the last 6 weeks for him have been, you just can't, like Seth Curry had a great game tonight. He had a great game the other night. They're so fucking close. Like, you can taste it how close they are. And I said to you, the first half of this Milwaukee game, they don't play this way when Joe's there. I don't know if it's because Joe does take away a little bit of the rhythm because he is so much of the offense, but they don't play that hard when Joel Embiid is in the game. I mean, even defensively, like I can see Danny Green give more effort when Joe's not in the game defensively because he knows that there's nobody there to protect him. Dwight Howard's not moving laterally the way that Joe does. He's just not. So there's a lot of stuff to figure out, dude. I'm telling you right now, though, I believe – so if I look up and down the contenders of the East, even though Chad thinks Miami is going to be that good, I don't. But if you look at the contending teams, you have really good coaches out there, right? You've got Nick Nurse. You've got Eric Spoelstra. You've got Brad Stevens, who I know every Boston fan is shitting on right now, but he's still a pretty good coach. I think I'd argue that Doc Rivers might be the best coach of the competing teams. I mean, he's better than Budenholzer, right? Like, he's better than most of the coaches in the top end of the league.
He's doing the best job, and we also know that as good as the job, you have to give hats off to Steve Nash, but Mike D'Antoni's there, and I saw Mike D'Antoni win the West 4 times, cut 2 or 3 with Phoenix, 1 or 2 with Houston. So, like, I know what he does in the regular season. I don't know how it translates to the playoffs.
There's a problem with that, right? And the reason's simple, and I think this is why Daryl Morey has continued to build the Sixers the way he has, to be a matchup problem. That 7-second offense is really fucking hard come the playoffs, dude. If you're not shooting 48 to 55% from the field for the game, you're losing that game because of how many shots you're chucking. That 7-second offense is get to the top of the key or a wing 3 within 7 seconds. There are 2 looks. And when you figure that out, like obviously when you have a guy like Kevin Durant who can ISO score against everybody, you have a breakdown option, but that's not how Mike D'Antoni's offense runs. That's why Mike D'Antoni's systems fail come the playoffs, because no matter the personnel he has, that system does not win. The triangle won, right? Like that system doesn't win. The 3-and-D idea of what Golden State built, right? Klay Thompson, one of the best wing defenders. Draymond, all he can do is defend. Steph is just a dominant 3-point shooter, probably the best in history. They were shoot threes and defend the basketball. Andre Iguodala won a Finals MVP for
people don't remember. People don't remember when they were winning championships. They were the best defense in the league.
Right, led by Andre Iguodala, bro. Andre Iguodala won a Finals MVP for defensive effort. It wasn't because of what he did for that team.
Yeah, his defensive effort holding LeBron to a triple-double on 40% shooting.
Listen, bro, again, the Michael haters have to have something. The Michael lovers have to have something to say. They just have to. And it's a shame. They'll all die eventually. We're all getting older one day at a time.
But even think about their depth.
It was unbelievable, bro.
They had Harrison Barnes. They had Sean Livingston. They were all really good defenders. David Lee was there for a little bit. They had Andrew Bogut just guys that could play defense. That was just what they had.
And that is what built the level of success to have a guy like, let's be real, bro. If they're Well, we don't even have to say if. I know that he's older and that's the excuse now, but look at what Steph Curry's doing now that all that stuff is gone, right? Clay's hurt. Draymond is a shell of what he once was. Steph can still shoot the fucking lights out from
Yeah,
anywhere.
it
But
doesn't
that
matter.
team will never be above 500 because they need to be elite defensively and hide everything that's wrong with Steph.
That's why they went out and got Wiggins and Oubre, but they're just so terrible shooting the ball that it's getting difficult for the Warriors to run that
I
offense.
can't believe that Andrew Wiggins was drafted where he was. Like, I think about that draft. So, bro, do you know how many times on my hour and 20-minute ride home from work where I just staring off into a red light that I'm stopped at 40 miles from home and go, Andrew fucking Wiggins. That's
a better pick than what Cleveland did a couple years later.
Yeah, but dude, but
who's the guy? He wasn't even in the league for after like 20 games.
Andrew Wiggins gave Cleveland Kevin Love.
Yeah,
that's fucking unbelievable. And listen, Kevin Love is not Larry Bird. I know a lot. For a handful of years, we made comparisons, almost all of us. But Kevin Love to Andrew Wiggins, if I give you the choice, you take Kevin Love 11 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
Like, it's just unbelievable to think, man. And listen, dude, I don't see any reason to believe anything other than Anthony Edwards is the next Andrew Wiggins. I just show me something. I mean, John Morant is obviously a little bit less than we built him to be last year because it was, oh my God, where'd he come from? But dude, Anthony Edwards is he's like a fucking Dollar General Dwayne Wade.
He's an athletic freak, but he's definitely got to sharpen his game up a little bit. I like the Dwayne Wade comparison. 16-4-2, but you remember Dwayne Wade came out the gate and he was the reason that the Heat were Minnesota is just a terrible franchise. The Brooklyn Nets are now just beat the Pacers. They're a half game up in the East as it stands, and Milwaukee is now going to be a game back from the Sixers in the third spot. I don't mind much of any of these standings based on. So here's another thing that we'll close on this. Based on how I've seen the Sixers play without Joel Embiid, how Tobias Harris has played, and how Doc Rivers has coached, I don't care if they finish anywhere from 1 to 4, just because of the type of season.
I think 1 to 3, but I'm with you.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter because I know they're going to be fine when Embiid gets back, and the way they've played without him shows me that they are very, very well coached, and that they're using everybody the right way.
Right now, who is 5, 6, 7, 8?
The Heat are 4, the Hornets are 5, the Celtics are 6, and then it's Hawks, Knicks. It's not the Bulls and Raptors and Pacers are all kind of right there, like going to be fighting for the 8th spot. I think the Knicks.
If you avoid the Heat, if the Heat stay 4 or go to 3 and you go 4,
you beat all those teams.
Yeah, you beat 5 through 8 for sure.
Yeah, I don't care about playing the Hornets. If we end up being the 3 seed and they're the 6 seed, I couldn't care less.
I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, the bottom of the East is pretty weak. By the way, if we redrafted, speaking of redrafts, you're taking LaMelo Ball first every single fucking time.
I don't know that I agree with you,
but I
understand why you make your point. I don't think you have to. Bro, listen to me. There's too many great young guards in this league now, bro. Where did Jamal Murray come from? Like, come on, bro. There's too many great young guards every single year that you can find. I'm convinced that the NBA, more than any other league, is 100% coaching. 100%. Absolutely player development is what runs the NBA.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Sixers have been doing a good job, at least in that respect over the last
Cassell's the difference, by the way. Doc is huge, but Sam Cassell's the difference.
Yeah, you can make that argument. That's all we have for you guys tonight. Good episode. We have more free agent stuff coming up, and we'll have our draft board together by Sunday to put together for you. We will be doing another mock draft based on all the free agency signings and what's going on in the NFL. So tune in Sunday for that. We'll give you the time before we start. Any closing thoughts, just after the Sixers were up 5 and you guaranteed a win?
Ben, you're 6'10".
He had a bad game tonight. I'll cut him.
He hit a 3 in the 11th hour of overtime. I give him credit for the shot.
Slack because he had his hands full on the defensive end and did a really good job on Giannis tonight, and that's what we're going to need from him. But you got to make a couple of he's got to do a little bit more with his inside game to get more consistent and confident with it. Other than that,
my last thought, if Joel Embiid was healthy and in this game, the Sixers win by 15. That's all I've got.
They whooped them tonight. They played great defense. We'll see you guys Sunday. Big Facts, all streaming platforms. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for commenting. Keep commenting on this page. We'll see you guys Sunday.
Peace, brother.